Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network present the Discover Your Mission series.
When I was young, in the 1950s, I attended Catholic grammar school and I memorized the Baltimore Catechism. In fact, I think I got an A on all of my tests. I faithfully attended Mass each week, not because I wanted to, but because I was afraid if I didn't, I would suffer eternal damnation. I followed all the rules. I followed my Catholic faith faithfully. But it wasn't until I became a wife and a mother and I began to try and pass my faith on to my children that I realized that everything I knew about Jesus was memorized doctrine.
I can't even share with you how I was so wrote in my faith. And I was attending Mass, but I was not present. I was a good man, I was a good father, I was instilling the sacraments into my family. I was definitely not intentional. I was stuck wrote in my faith.
But what kind of strength did he have? Jackie did not just have a strength of body or baseball skill. He had a strength inside of his spirit, a courageous meekness that empowered him to play the game.
And I tell him what is going on with me, and he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, I think this is like some sort of miracle, dude. And he's like, okay, of course, but I'll believe it when I see it. Honey, you've been trying to quit, and you've been saying this and saying that, and his big line to me is, you shouldn't say things, because I never follow through on them. And so this was week after week, month after month. He is looking at me like, this is a miracle. There is no way that you, on your own, could have done this.
In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 16 through 21, St. Paul compares the sacrifice of the Christians to the sacrifice of Israel and then to the sacrifice of the pagans. Paul calls the chalice the blood of Christ, and the bread as participation in the body of Christ, and then warns his listeners that you cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons at the same time. So in other words, you need to decide, what are you going to participate in? Are you going to participate in the historic Christian idea of the altar of sacrifice, which is in the Eucharist, or not?
Welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. This is a show all about implanting hope in our hearts. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my friend Ann DeSantis. We're glad you're here for our uplifting conversation about faith and how it sustains our hearts through all the seasons of life. Thanks for walking with us. And good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. I am Bill Snyder. It's great to be with you on this beautiful, sunny Wisconsin morning. It's not always this sunny here in Wisconsin, but it's always sunny in Philadelphia, where my co-host is from. And DeSantis, how are you doing this morning? Let me make sure you're unmuted here. Unmute you there. How are you this morning?
Oh, great. Now, I wouldn't say that it's really very sunny this morning.
I always like that joke, though, because it's
that's right.
It's from the TV show, you know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, how are you? Doing good?
Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And I know we have a wonderful guest with us today. You want to tell us a little bit about her?
Yes, and her family is a good friend of Patchwork Heart Ministry. We have with us Kennedy Hehr. And Kennedy, I'm going to read your bio. Now, this is her own autobiography. She says, I'm a 22-year-old Catholic girl who experienced tons of trials and tribulations thus far. After a life-threatening car accident, I was told I'd never play volleyball again. Yet I went on to play at 2 different Division I schools. 2 knee surgeries, and 3 conclusions after that forced my faith to be tested over and over. I know now that God's plan will forever trump our own. Trusting in Him and Jeremiah 29:11 was extremely hard at times, but I chose to continue to believe. Thank you so much, Kennedy, for joining us this morning.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you're also the author of a wonderful book. I want to make sure we get that in there. It's called
Oh, yes,
Through
I am.
Through the Crosshair, Hehr, which is how you spell your last name. So Through the Crosshair, and it's available anywhere books are sold, of course, Amazon and all those good places. So it's just super exciting to have you and have your journey. You know, I mean, tell us a little bit about your faith journey. That's always how we start on the program. Is just, you know, your faith journey and your walk, and you have a fascinating one, and then we can delve into some of the more interesting areas of the story.
Okay, so I grew up in a Catholic household. Baptism, reconciliation, confirmation, all those sacraments up to this point. I went to Catholic school from 2nd grade to 8th grade, and I never really had my faith tested up until when I was a freshman in high school and I was in that life-threatening car accident that Ann mentioned. So the biggest overarching thing is that setbacks are what tested my faith and comebacks are what solidified my faith. So I was in this car accident and I was, told I was never going to play volleyball again. I was told, I might not be able to do anything I was doing previously. And without God, I wouldn't have been able to overcome all of that, but I did. And then after that, setback after setback, and we'll get into that. But overall, like I said, the comebacks are what really helped me dive into my faith, because I knew that there was no other way for me to come back from everything without God.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe talk to us a little bit about the circumstances of that car accident, because, knowing your family and knowing exactly when that happened, I know exactly where I was when that happened, and I was told about it. But just talk a little bit about the circumstances of that, and again, you were a rising star on volleyball. I know that you had played in middle school a little bit, and all those things. So just talk a little bit about what that was like, having those dreams come crashing down in a horrific accident.
Yes, so I started on the varsity volleyball team as a freshman, and so that's where I kind of first established my volleyball career. And then shortly after the season, in January the 26th of 2014, I was in a car accident where my stomach was cut in half internally. I had a hole in my small intestine and a hole in my duodenum. So in that type of instance, the trauma you endure, you have 60 minutes to get to the hospital. They call it the golden hour. And I got there in 59 minutes. So because of the weather conditions, I wasn't able to be flight for life, which is what they thought was the best option. But, the ambulance did their job and they got me where I needed to go. So I was in the ICU for 5 days, the hospital for 11 days, liquid diet for 3 weeks. I lost 22 pounds and missed 30 days of school. And like I said, I had to, figure out if I was ever going to be able to play volleyball again. So I had to learn how to walk again. I couldn't talk. You have no idea how much you use your ab muscles to talk until you are severed right down the middle. So learn how to walk, talk. I couldn't even tie my shoe by myself. And anyone who knew me previously, or now for that matter, knows I'm very independent. And after that, I was very dependent, which was hard for me in general to, have to ask someone for help for was very dependent, which was hard for me in general to, have to ask someone for help for basically in general to, have to ask someone for help for basically
Yeah, well, praise God, the pain and suffering that you've been through, and what wonderful accomplishments you've had since that time. So I just commend you on that, and I'm sure your family's so proud of you.
yes, I would like to think so.
No, I know they are.
Yeah.
And folks, I just want to let you know I had my internet drop out. So since I'm the one that, or at least my computer is the one that's upholding the show, you may have had a little interruption in the broadcast. So so I apologize for that. But nothing I could do about it because my entire internet went down. But fortunately, it was a brief little internet outage, and so we'll get we're back on the air now, obviously, but but that was not fun. So I apologize. Anybody who experienced those, delays there with that. But yeah, Kennedy, amazing story, and just thank you so much for there are very few young people that go through something like this, right?
Right.
And I really think that's what the strength of your story is that you have not only been through it, but you've conquered it, and you've dealt with all the different fallout of that event. And there's so much emotional stuff, there's so much physical stuff, there's so much you have to go through.
Right.
And I when you talk to people about it, when you talk to people who are interested in your story, I'm sure that there's people that you go out to coffee with, or have moments of like sharing your faith with people that are curious about this. What is their reaction? What do they say?
I think a big thing would just be, how did you do it? Or how did you believe, in God or in your faith while all of those, for lack of a better phrase, terrible things were happening to you? They always say that God gives his strongest battles to his strongest soldiers, or toughest battles. So I tried to lean on that, but Jeremiah 29:11, obviously, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. That's what I've leaned on since, especially my car accident, but even before that, it was my favorite verse. I wear it around my neck, actually. And so the biggest thing they say is just how did you do it? And so I try to be as transparent as possible and just be honest and real and say there were countless times where I said, why me? Why is this happening? What did I do to, deserve this necessarily? And so I was forced to trust because there really was no other option. If I didn't trust, there would have been, a rabbit hole of sadness and anxiety, and that's not what I wanted to go down. So even if there were little spurts of God showing through, that's how I knew that, something bigger was going to come out of this. And it did. My volleyball journey didn't go as I planned, didn't last as long as I planned, but I wrote a whole book about how your plan doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So it was definitely hard to, swallow that pill. That's why I had to realize, but that's not how I wanted my life to look like. And God says, well, that's what but one of the biggest points was after my, third concussion, I ended up medically retiring from volleyball, and God shined his light on me multiple times. I remember very perfectly, actually. I was on my knees in my little dorm room, very, very tiny stone wall dorm room, on my knees, just bawling, crying, begging to God, saying, like, please just tell me something. Like, am I supposed to play volleyball? Am I supposed to quit? Like, what am I supposed to do? And that morning, truly, I woke up with like an epiphany, with God, the Holy Spirit, telling me, there's so much more to your life than this, and your health is way more important. And so I texted my coach that exact day and said, we need to have a conversation. And I told her I was medically retiring because my health was more important. And it was almost as if God basically said word for word that exact thing to me. So that was the biggest thing up to this point. He's still very prevalent in my life every single day. It's really hard right now with COVID and church and all of that. But, I try to stay connected as much as possible. It makes it really hard when, that Sunday rolls around and you can't really do your normal routine. So you can in North Carolina, but I like to, stay protected as much as possible. So the virtual ordeal is good as of right now.
Yeah, I agree. Bill and I learned that lesson too here on Sowing Hope, right? I mean, this podcast started because of the pandemic. So,
oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'd love to hear about your book. So tell us the title again, and where can people purchase it? And what was it like also to write that book?
Okay, so it's called Through the Crosshair, Hehr with my last name, as a pun, of course. And I started writing it when I was a freshman in college. I told Bill a couple weeks ago, it was really just for my own sanity to, write some things down and just vent to a piece of paper. And after a couple months went by and I was experiencing so much, physical and emotional trauma as far as college sports go, I decided, people should know that they're not the only ones going through this, because I knew I wasn't the only one. And it was just not something that was talked about. So then I started really writing, and I changed the end date like 5 times, probably my goal date to be done. But I'm honestly glad I did, because I wouldn't have been able to put everything in it that I wanted to put in it that is currently discussed now. So honestly, the pandemic is what really pushed me to finish it. I said, I'm going to be home 24 hours a day. I have zero excuse not to finish this book. So it was pretty close to being done, but it needed to be, gone through with a fine pick comb, and I needed to add more detail and all of that kind of stuff. So the pandemic pushed me to it. March is when we really went on lockdown here. And in early June, I believe it was sent off to the publisher. So like I said, the biggest overarching thing about the book is that your plan is not going to trump God's plan, along with the, politics of college sports and just my journey, because, especially with social media nowadays, you have no idea what people are going through, so a lot of people told me, back in my little small town at home that, I was an inspiration to them, or inspiration to people that I had no idea about. So that's what I wanted to do, is if I can help one person through that book, one person, stick out that sport, or, finish that class that they may or may not be close to failing, whatever the case may be, then I did my job with writing that book, because that was my plan. And personally, I would like to think that there have been more people that I've touched by the book. So I'm sure the next question might be, will I continue to write? So I might as well just get that answer out now. I'm not sure. I can't really answer that as of right now. It wasn't really my plan to be an author, Truly, I'm not even sure what I would possibly write about at this point. I mean, my life is pretty boring now. I sit at home and work 8 hours a day in my pajamas at my computer. But, I mean, I do enjoy it. So I can't give you anything concrete and say, stay tuned or anything fun like that. But maybe one day something amazing will happen. I'll just have to write a book about it.
That's such a great story that you're able to tell about how the book came to be, and our stories, as you mentioned, they're not finished. I mean, none of our stories are, and
Right.
I think that we always need to have something that is earth shattering happen in order to write a book. Certainly it seems that way in our society, right? Like, oh, we have to have this. But the reality is that living the daily life of, you know, a regular, normal Catholic, a normal person that's out there, just out there doing their best is what the majority of society is doing. Even, myself and Anne,
Right.
I mean, that's what we're doing, and I think that that's the most relatable part, especially of your story, is the fact that, okay, yeah, I've been through this incredible event in my life that I am privileged in some weird way to be a part of going through it, that, that God believed that I was strong enough to handle it, that I was given this not for myself, right? You weren't given this for yourself. It was given for you to impact other people, or there wouldn't be a book, right?
Correct.
And then, okay, but you know what? I don't have to, continue having these wonderful, huge, momentous or disastrous things happen in my life to recognize that God is part of who I am, and God, is has a hand in my life. Like that is such an important message too, because the reality of people out there, listening to this right now, and there's a lot of listeners, Kennedy. There's a lot of listeners listening to this, and what I think though is the beautiful thing about it is that they may not have been through something like that, but you don't have to in order to experience God's grace in your life, and I think that that's a beautiful part of your story. I want to bring in one question. We did have somebody who is listening on our Podbean thing text us, so people can text us on Podbean.
Nice.
Their questions, and he just said to us, after such an accident, it is normal to have a depression after that. Can you ask her how she was able to come out of that? I mean, were there any? I mean, I know you touched on it a little bit, but were there any
Yes.
moments in there that were like, oh my gosh, I was so low, and how did you pull out of that? I think that's, I mean, obviously God's grace, but how
Right.
else?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you to whoever asked that, because it's definitely true. Like I said, I went through the whole why me thing, and I tried to fight that for a really long time. I was like, I can't do that. Like, that's not going to help me at all. It's just going to set me back mentally. And so, but I had to, go. My mom always says you have to go through what you go through, and so that was, just where I was at the time. Why me? And the only way for me to get through it was really to ask for help, which at the time, I mean, still to this day, not as much, but at the time made me cringe to ask, for help to tie my shoe or take a shower or brush my hair. My dad did my hair when I was younger, and he, had to do it when I was 15. So because of that. So I would just say the biggest thing is to just truly have to come to the realization that, sometimes you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. And I really couldn't. I really wanted to so bad. Everybody in my family would tell you, I, tried to push them away as much as possible. But at the end of the day, there was no way I was going to be able to do it by myself. And obviously I had God, but without the people around me and the support system I had through the club I was with at the time, just the outpouring of love on social media. That's about the one positive factor of social media in this day and age. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without all that either. I had messages, people saying I was the biggest inspiration to them in the volleyball world. And you guys know how big the sporting world is. There's countless athletes, professional. And, I was 14 and people were telling me that. So that was my motivation, not only to play volleyball again so I could do it, because that's what I wanted, but because it was going to show people that they could do it too. And being an inspiration has, that's always been something I've been wanting to do. And to have that impact it just trumps everything else. I mean, I'm looking at an autograph from Bethany Hamilton right now, actually, the surfer who has one arm. who was my motivation. And now, you know, she wrote me a note, and that's what I do now. Every book I send off, I, write a little note to the person, whoever it may be, whether I know them or not, just to make it known that, it is personal. It definitely is. And I'm always, here to share my story with anyone, whether you're, my mom, my dad, me personally, or one of you guys, or don't know me at all. So I do want to definitely say that no one hesitate to reach out. I would love to talk to all of you guys. That's definitely my mom and me for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And once again, we just are so grateful to you to being here. And you are an inspiration. And not only were you back then, but you continue to be, because you shared this beautiful story of perseverance and of triumph over pain and over difficulty that you went through, both physically and probably also emotionally too, I guess, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It wasn't just physical pain. I mean,
Right.
You had other types of pain that you had to deal with.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate you touching on that as well, because, I remember a post perfectly that I made. I said, physical healing has now been semi-complete up to this point, but now we're on to the emotional side and the mental side of, how do I possibly, come back from that side of things. Still to this day, I mean, I have physical stomach pain, but I don't like to say, it beats the alternative of not being here, because there's so much more to life than that. And I really do not like when people tell me, you could be dead. So I don't want to say that, but at the end of the day, it's true. So I take the good with the bad, and, hopefully the person that caused all of my, stomach problems and the surgery and all of that, she will have her, what's the word I'm looking for? She will have justice served in heaven. So that's what we hope for. We pray for her to this day, my family and I, just so that doesn't happen to someone else ever again. And so for people who don't know, there was, the driver was impaired. So I am very strict about impaired driving, and I will advocate for that until I'm in the grave.
Yeah, no.
I agree with you completely. And it's, I actually had a death in the family. It was an uncle. Now, he died before I was born, but it was a drunk driving accident. So I heard a lot about that when I was growing up. And so I do understand your feeling about that. I mean, I completely agree. It's every time we get in the car, we have to think about not only ourselves, but other people, and don't take any chances. I mean, we can't take any chances when it comes to that.
Right.
That is my opinion. And I have 2 daughters in their 20s, and always tell them over and over and over again to not to drink and drive, and be careful who you get in the car with.
Right. Well, perfect example is one of my brothers. He'll, if somebody he knows is going to do that, he'll say, "Do you want me to tell you about my sister?" Or, "Do you know who my sister is?" Or something like that. So, I mean, even just in that sense, I'm impacting somebody to, do something for more reasons than one.
Yeah, it's so important. And I don't think people really understand that you don't have to be completely, totally intoxicated to really harm someone. I mean, basically, we really shouldn't be drinking and driving at all. I mean, at all. And that's why we have designated drivers, right? I mean, so it's very important to hear it over and over again. I think especially for people in your age category too, because let's face it, sometimes people in their early 20s, they do a lot of, going to bars and drinking with friends and hanging out and doing things like that where people get in the car. So we have to take that very seriously.
Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
And it's good to have young people talk about that, because I think oftentimes we have a lot of, older moms and dads, talking about that. But the fact that you're able to survive the accident from an impaired driver that almost killed you, and we don't have to go through the whole story again, but the fact that you're out there being public about it at your age, I think adds a lot of weight to it because young people tend to feel invincible. Right? Young people tend to feel invincible. Nothing is I can do anything, and nothing is
Oh,
going
I
to
felt that way until my
right,
car accident. I
right,
definitely felt that way.
right. But here's the key: at your age, you're able to step forward and say, no, I'm not invincible, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm not invincible. I was almost killed by somebody who was acting irresponsibly, and by that witness to your peers in that age group. I mean, of course, it's going to continue forward as you get older and whatnot, but the fact that it continues, right now, and you're able to witness to that and say, I'm a young person. I was impacted by this. It's going to help so many souls and hearts out there avoid putting themselves in a dangerous situation. It's no secret that on this show anyway that I'm an Uber driver, right? So I take people to and from that have left their cars overnight at a bar because they didn't want to drive home, and I always thank them, always without fail. I thank them for doing that. No matter how hungover they are, I thank them for not driving impaired at the previous night. And I just feel that your witness really, really adds to that. And so thank you so much for that witness. And anybody listening out there that is young, that is out there, within Kennedy or even my age group, you're not invincible. Don't make those dumb decisions to do that, because guess what? You can severely injure somebody or kill somebody. And so yeah, thank you for that witness, Kennedy. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, I thank you too, and I agree with you completely as a mother, and I think we probably have some other moms that are listening. It's good to hear your story in the light of what you just said. How important it is. It is truly better to be safe than sorry, isn't it? I mean, and I think as a mother, we can't say that enough when it comes to drinking and driving or any type of driving impaired, as Bill said.
Yes.
That's right. So, hey, I know that you're involved in the marketing field. Tell us about what you're doing right now. We'd love to hear.
So I graduated, like I said, I graduated early. So I was done in about late July, early August of this year. And truly, if I knew I was going to be job searching during almost the Great Depression, I probably would have just stayed in school. But it was, I've been mentally out of college for 2 years now, and I've been wanting to work forever, which not many people say. So I was, I applied to, I think the ending number was 190 something, 192 jobs or something like that. And, deny, or no response, or the position had been terminated, which that was probably the biggest one, is that the position was no longer there, or they couldn't, afford to pay someone to do it with the pandemic and all. So I actually had called my mom one week, started bawling my eyes out. I don't cry, for those of you who know me. It's very rare. And said, like, am I ever going to get a job? I mean, I can't believe these people have been doing this for, X amount of months, living on no income. So I had so much sympathy still to this day for people, who are doing that or struggling, because, everybody who knows me knows that money is it is my biggest stressor, and always will be. That's just how I am. And literally probably not even a week later, 2 days later, a company had called me that I had interviewed with previously, who ended up terminating that position, opened a new position, and they wanted me to be in that role. And so I listened to the voicemail and I almost, fell off my chair. I was so excited. So I'm currently an account coordinator for a digital marketing company based out of Virginia called Level 5 Advertising Team Velocity. And I work remote from Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm currently in training, but that is coming to an end here soon as the year comes to an end. So I'm very blessed and grateful to have a job, especially having gotten one in the middle of a pandemic. But this whole remote work thing is very interesting. I think I would rather go to an office, but I'm not sure, especially with where my job is located, I'm not sure that's ever happening. So,
So when you're finished with the training, you said, right? So
Yeah.
will you be staying in Charlotte, North Carolina, or do you go back to someplace else?
no, so I'm going to stay here until, further notice. When I asked my boss, he said, if we can, they had never trained someone virtually or remote. So this was new. This is new for everybody, of course. But he said, if you can do it remotely, I don't see why you would have to move here to come to the office. So that's the plan, remote as of right now. But I'm also taking things day by day, and, I have a lease. So that depends on, when that ends and if I find a new place. So as of right now, I'm staying in Charlotte, North Carolina, but Florida has been very appealing lately. So we will see. Stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, I agree. Florida is appealing when it comes to weather.
Oh, yeah.
That's for
the
sure.
The hurricanes are the turnoff, but that's okay.
But everything else is great.
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how do you like North Carolina?
I love it. I had always wanted to move to the South, actually. So when I was in South Carolina, I was committed to go to Arizona State. And then I decided, no, I want to stay in the South. So now I'm in North Carolina. The weather, for those of you in Wisconsin or even PA, probably the weather is just as bipolar here. So it doesn't really ever have any rhyme or reason to what it's doing. Like right now it's 40, but tomorrow it'll probably be like 80. Then it'll be pouring rain. But I really like it. I don't want to say the people are nicer, but they are. So that's always a plus. Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Now you probably don't get any snow really. I know they had snow last season though, I heard they did have some snow.
For what I know as snow, we do not get snow. No, we don't. Everyone who lives here and who hasn't seen, Wisconsin or northern snow would tell you, oh my gosh, it snows so much here. But, I will tell you it'll snow maybe like a centimeter and everything is closed. No flight is going to no one's going to school or nothing like that. So when I tell people it had to be -30 for us to have school canceled where we live, they're like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what -degree weather feels like. Well, you probably don't want to either.
Yeah, it's coming here. It's definitely coming here, Kennedy.
Oh, I'm sure. So it's not much snow, but every once in a while, whatever you consider snow, I guess we get it.
Yeah, we've already had the first snowfall here in Wisconsin, just a little bit anyway here in Milwaukee, a light coating of snow, but it's only November, so as you well know, it'll be
ready.
February and we'll be buried, but
Yes, definitely.
But no, I mean, I think the whole thing. You just have an amazing story, and I know that God is going to be working in your life continually. So just thank you for your witness this morning, and thank you for all of the really great stuff you continue to do. I want to encourage people to get a copy of the book if they don't already have it, and the easiest way to do that is probably through Amazon or something like that. But they can also contact you directly, right, and be able to get a copy of the book, and you'll sign it for them and all that stuff.
Yes, of course. So it's honestly, I don't sound very professional, but it's supposed to be on a lot more platforms than it is. So I need to look into that definitely. But it is on Amazon Prime for sure. So Amazon is back into the swing of things, getting things going pretty quickly. So, but if you order it through me, like Bill said, I can sign it. I write a note and I ship it off right when the payment comes. So it's pretty much just as fast as Amazon. So either way, it's really just a matter of if you want it signed or not.
Awesome. And where did they get in touch with you to do that?
So you guys can email me. It's just my first and my last name at hotmail.com, or any social media is all of it is my first and last name. So if you have my phone number, of course, anything or if you know someone who knows me, I'm pretty open to communication. So however you can contact me, it's fine.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, just using the email for listeners. Again, it's Kennedy, Hehr, at hotmail.com. And then, of course, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all of those other social media means. Just search for Kennedy Hehr, and she'll be able to get that out to you. I wonder if you want to talk to young people just for a few minutes about going through trials and what that looks like. I know we talked little bit about it, but specifically for young people, in their 20s who haven't had the privilege of conquering what you have conquered. And we have this, or at least I hear it from young people, this mentality of I am going to run from pain. Like I am going to run from it. It is the worst thing, whether it's emotional or physical. I don't want to. Pain is bad, Um, can you speak to young people that have that mentality just a little bit and be like, some pain is unavoidable, and so how do we overcome, like, how do we navigate that when we're constantly trying to run from something that we simply just can't avoid?
I'll definitely say that there comes a point where that's not an option anymore, running away from the pain or the emotion. I keep saying, for those of you who knew me before, but truly, those of you who knew me when I was younger, emotion wasn't really in my vocabulary or in my body. Truly. Now, since I ran from all that emotion, now God decided to put more emotion in my body than I think all my family and my friends put together. So that's not my favorite thing in the world, that's for sure. But, that was not my punishment, but it was, God's way of saying, you can try to run, but there's no way to do that. So you have to go through it. And it's only going to make you stronger, truly. It sounds so cliche, everybody says that, but I'm 22 saying that. So I always said when I was younger to follow your heart and chase your dreams and, let God do the rest will fall into place. And I truly stand by that to this day. I mean, whatever you want to do, just don't give up, just keep running, truly running to it, honestly, running to your goals, running to what motivates you, what you love to do, whatever the case may be. And you're just going to have to, come to the realization that there's going to be plenty of things in the way. They might not be as catastrophic as, some others, but there's always going to be something in the way. And that's just, Satan's way of trying to ruin things. But the stronger your faith is, the stronger you're going to be, and the faster you're going to get to where you want to go.
I think that your story can help people who need and want to get from bitter to better, from victim to victor. That's what I'm hearing, because you have been through such a trial, but you continue to persevere. You continue to have your own dreams and care about the dreams of other people. And I know that you want to spread the faith, because you've experienced that faith is what really gets you through, and what has gotten you to the point that you're at right now, where you're able to look back and say, yeah, life hasn't been completely perfect in some ways, but God has blessed me abundantly, and I'm able to take a step forward into the future, doing his will and trusting his plan for my life.
Right. Correct. So there actually was an article about becoming the victor from the victim. And so that truly is a huge thing. Once you can, take that step into thinking and realizing, there's so much more to this than, but I'm not going to, I would be lying if I said I wasn't, I'm the victim. Like, what is happening? Why is this happening? What did I do to deserve this? All of that is completely 100% normal. There's no way
Absolutely.
you can go through something. It doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have to be so traumatic, but there's no way you can go through something and, especially, I will continue to reiterate this, especially with social media and the fake lives that people propose, especially with all of that, there's no way you can't say, why is this happening to me and not, X, Y, or Z, or etc.
Yeah.
It's good that you brought that up, because sometimes with social media, there is this fake persona that people have as this perfect life, perfect family, no pain, and they're moving ahead. And, that's really not what life is about. At the end of our lives, it's about our our real and true relationship with Jesus Christ and with the Holy Spirit, and being open to his will. Nobody's spared any kind of pain. And I think God has given you so much wisdom when it comes to all of this. And I just commend you, because it takes a lifetime for people sometimes to be able to understand that fact. Isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think it takes a lifetime for people to understand that fact. And just to give you also a little bit of my own story, was that I didn't have a car accident like you did, but was faced with a life-threatening health condition in my 30s that also helped me to open up my eyes.
Right.
So when that happens, it can be a gift as well, because you can see that life is very fragile, right? Life is so fragile, and we have to be appreciative of that. But we also have to be empathetic with the pain and suffering of other people. So I want you to know that I do empathize and also commend you for the hard work that you've done to get to where you are today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And I always try to, as hard as it is, and I can say this now, but my next trial, I'll be struggling to say it. So I can admit that. But something I always try to tell myself is there's someone out there who's doing so much worse.
Yes.
Whether that be, financially, physically, emotionally, whatever the case may be. And that's, like I said, it's another hard pill to swallow, but it's the fact. So.
No, that's a good one. It's a good one to think about. And as a mother of two daughters who are around your age too, I try to instill that in them, because, I think sometimes in our culture, especially for people who are a little younger, some families are raising their kids to feel as if life is all perfect and invincible, and all will be fine 100% of the time, and it's not. And you know what? That's okay, because that's what makes us stronger. It's what makes us stronger, is that life isn't going to be completely, as you said, butterflies and rainbows, coming from one of my favorite movies. And of course, I'm in Philadelphia too, so I have to mention that. But it's not butterflies and rainbows.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that it isn't good still, that it isn't good.
Yeah.
Right.
So Kennedy, thank you so much for being with us this morning, and just all the wisdom that you've shared. I want to invite people to connect with you. I mean, even if they don't want to copy the book and they just want to talk and they just want to share, I think that you've got I know that you have a bright future ahead of you, because that's exactly what the gospel passage or the Bible passage that you live by. So I know that the Holy Spirit and God have a wonderful plan for your future. But I really encourage people to connect with you and just reach out to Kennedy, whether it be on social media. Again, Kennedy, Hehr. Of course, get a copy of the book, because it's going to be awesome for you to just encounter that. I mean, I believe you even put the pictures inside of the book as well, right? You even put some of the pictures of your accident just to see that, and of course some others too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, people are going to be able to encounter and see the real person that you are. I mean, I think that that's one of the big things that we're striving for in society today, is the authenticity. And you just gush authenticity, which is so huge, because as you mentioned, people just put up these fake posts on social media. The authenticity just oozes from you, and I think that that's so important for young people to encounter and to see, because that is what's going to change lives and change hearts. And so I know he's got the Holy Spirit and God have got a bright plan for your future, and just so thank you so much for being with us, for sharing the story. And are there any last words? Just have a few minutes to wrap up the program, so I just want to leave you with the last word to just share anything that you'd like to share with people as we kind of wrap up today.
I don't know. I mean, I pretty much said everything I wanted to say, but overall, I guess, just lean on God and don't be afraid to ask for help, whether that's, on your knees like I was, bawling my eyes out, asking God for help, or, calling your parents or your siblings or your best friend or, whatever the case may be. And that's like a gut thing for me, because to even say that. So because I like to do everything on my own. But at the end of the day, there's no way you're going to be able to do that, especially if you're going through, some challenges. So don't hesitate to reach out to anyone, but I mean, to me as well, I'm pretty available. And I would love to talk to you. So I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a pleasure. I love to share my story. Hopefully I, touched one person's heart today, maybe more.
Well, you did one, at least me.
Hey!
and Bill,
Yes,
and,
of course.
and way more than that. We know. Bill said we had
Great.
very good
Yeah,
listenership
we got
on this program.
huge listenership today. It's one of our best listened programs.
Oh, yay!
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
excited.
So yeah, it is. It's wonderful. And thank you all for engaging and chatting with us and asking questions. We love that. So please do more of that in the future. But I also want to just really quickly mention, as we're kind of for our commercial here, we have a couple upcoming conferences as we wrap up the program. I want you to take a watch at Ann DeSantis' conference coming up on the 29th. God is Mercy. Go over to smartcatholics.com to register for that. It's completely free. Great speakers, great lineup. It's going to be awesome. And then, of course, on the 29th, concurrent with Ann's conference for one day, we're going to have the beginning of our Advent pilgrimage. And if you go over to parausiamedia.com, we'll put links in the show notes for you to register for that. Again, completely free. It's a daily walk with wonderful speakers. We've got amazing people like Jeff Cavins, Jason Everett. They're all going to be talking and sharing their life with you. So it's going to be a wonderful conference to help you get ready for Christmas time and Advent. So I want to thank all of our listeners for listening today and being a part of our ministry. Once again, a big thank you to Kennedy Hehr for being with us today. Again, her book is named Through the Crosshair. It's available wherever books are sold online, and through Kennedy as well at kennedyhehr@hotmail.com. So please check out the book. Check out how you can learn more about her and her wonderful story and ministry. But until next time, from all of us here at Patchwork Heart Ministry, the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation, Fiat Ministry Network, I'm Bill Snyder. Keep beating to your Catholic heart and sowing hope into broken hearts. Thanks for listening to this episode of Sowing Hope on Patchwork Heart Radio. For more information about this podcast and our ministries, visit our websites, patchworkheart.org and andesantis.com. You can also follow and interact with us on Twitter at PWH Ministry or Ann DeSantis 2.